Hi guys! So with Halloween coming up, today I'm going to teach you how to draw a spooky, electrified Frankenstein's monster. So you can either do a version that is a boy, or you can make a Frankenstein that's like a girl. So I'm going to do two guided drawings at once, and you can choose which one or both. Then we will color it in with our wax crayons or oil pastels, and then use watercolor with a wet on wet technique to make this really cool background. So it looks kind of like a spooky night sky with these lightning bolts bringing our monsters to life. So for this project, I do recommend that you use thicker paper. So this one was done on watercolor paper. You can see the colors blend together well, and it doesn't curl. It's nice and strong. It does work on regular printing paper. That's what I did on these two on, but you can see they get a little bit wrinkly. So it's up to you. But both papers will work. So you're gonna need paper, a pencil, a Sharpie, something to color with, either wax crayons or oil pastels, and watercolor paint. But you could always do this drawing and color it however you'd like with whatever materials you have at home. So stick around to learn how to make your very own Frankenstein monster.
All right, I'm going to show you how to draw Frankenstein's monster in two different ways. So if you'd like to draw a boy version, or at least a version that has pants and a shirt, you'll follow this side. And if you'd like to draw a girl version of Frankenstein's monster, or at least a monster in a dress with longer hair, you're going to copy the drawing on this side. Okay, we're going to do both at the same time. If you want to be really crazy, you could even draw both. So both of our drawings are going to start with kind of a D shape, a capital D. So I'm going to make my straight line, not in the middle, but a little bit higher, right about there. And then I draw a big round smile to make that capital D shape. Do you see that? Same thing on this side. Straight line, not in the middle, but a little bit higher. And I'm going to make that curved, kind of like a big smile. Do you see how that looks like the capital letter D? All right, so that's going to be our Frankenstein heads. I want them to be nice and big. That's the main part of our art project. So make sure that this shape is really big. It goes to about maybe 2 fingers on each side so that it takes up a lot of our space. We don't want to make our Frankenstein so teeny tiny. All right, so for the boy Frankenstein, I'm going to start at that line and draw a rectangle on top, just like this. I'm going to go up a little bit, across, and down. That's the top part of his head. To make his hair, I'm going to add a zigzag line. Now, if you're wondering what this part is, this is actually a scar. So I'm going to draw short vertical lines to show that. Because Frankenstein, the monster, was built, so they had to put a brain in there. So that's where they stitched it back together. Kind of gross, I know. All right, for the girl Frankenstein, instead of making a rectangle for her hair, we're going to use curved lines to make a nice, big, tall, kind of ball of curly hair. I'm going almost all the way to the top, just like that. And then I'm going to add kind of bangs. So I'm going to start a little bit off to the side, curved, like that, and then coming down to that side. If you want to just do a straight curved line, though, that works too. And she kind of famously has this white streak of hair down the middle. So I'm using curved lines to make that streak of white in her hair. And same thing, add some short vertical lines for the stitching. Next, we're going to add their eyes. I'm going to make big round circles spread out kind of wide on their head. This will make these eyes look a little bit cuter. So big circles kind of spread out, and try to make them the same size, but if not, that's okay. These are monsters, so it's okay if they're a bit off. Now, to make these kind of cute cartoony eyes, what I do is I draw a big circle and a little circle inside of that eye, and then I color the rest in black. Do you see how that kind of makes a cute cartoony eye? I'll show you again. Big circle, little circle, fill the rest in black. All right, I'll do it on this side too. Big circle, little circle, fill the rest in black. You can use cute cartoony eyes like this for anything. For animals, for people. Even for like objects that aren't even alive, you could add these cute eyes to a piece of pizza and it would turn it into an adorable little cartoon. We're also going to give them a simple smile right in between. If you don't want your Frankenstein smiling, you can give them a different facial expression. It's up to you. And then I might also add maybe a couple scars. So to make a scar, you can just do, where will I put it on this guy? Maybe right here. You just draw a line with some short lines across, kind of looking like it's stitched together. Maybe I'll do another one over here. You don't have to add these if you don't want to. You can just keep it plain. It's completely up to you. Next, we're going to add a little square underneath the heads. This is for their neck. And Frankenstein kind of famously has 2 bolts in their neck. So I'm going to make little bolts like that. Short little T's coming out from the neck. All right. Next, I'm going to draw their bodies. So for the boy Frankenstein, I'm going to give him a rectangle for his shirt. And then for the legs, I'm going to make them kind of go out on an angle because you're going to see we're going to add strokes of lightning, kind of electrocuting and bring Frankenstein to life. So I kind of want it to look like he's surprised or like he's getting shocked. So I'm going to make a rectangle facing this way and a rectangle popping out that way. Add some shoes. You could make them rounded like mine, or you could just make them rectangles. And maybe I'll jump over to the girl Frankenstein now, and then we'll add the arms together. For this one, I'm going to make her wearing a dress. So I'm going to start the exact same with this rectangle, but I'm going to make it go out a little bit and go a little bit longer. So that it looks like a dress. Same thing for the legs, make them kind of facing out, like she's getting shocked and brought to life. And then we're going to do the same thing for the arms. We want them to kind of go out at an angle. For the hands, you can either keep it simple and just do little rounded cartoony hands like that, or if you want to get more detailed, you can try to draw the fingers like that. It's completely up to you. Oh, and I forgot to add the ears. I think I'm going to give both of my characters some ears. Makes them look a little more realistic. All right. So now that we have our sketch done, our next step will be to color it in with either wax crayons or oil pastels work really well for this job. Usually, Frankenstein's monster is colored green for the skin, and then maybe we'll give them kind of purple clothes or whatever colors you'd like. And once we have these colored, I'll show you how we're going to add that lightning bolt effect and use some watercolor paint. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate how to add that lightning bolt effect to just this one for now. So what you're going to do after you're done coloring your whole character is you're going to take a light yellow or lime green crayon or pastel and outline the whole body. Now that I have my whole body outlined in yellow, I want to draw zigzag lines so it looks like lightning is striking this monster and bringing it to life. So I'm going to start at the edge of my paper and do a zigzag lightning stroke. Go over it a couple times. That way when we paint over this with our watercolor paint, it won't go on top of this line. The wax will resist the watercolor. So there's one. Maybe I want to add a couple. So you could totally leave your work of art like this. I think it looks really awesome. It looks like Frankenstein's getting electrocuted and coming to life. But if you want to take it one step further, we can watercolor the background and make it look really cool. So I do recommend that you use thicker paper This is just on regular printing paper, so we'll see how it works. Whenever you watercolor on regular paper, it can get really, really fragile and it could rip, so you want to be really careful with it. So I am going to do the wet on wet technique, which means I am going to wet my whole paper and then I'm going to dab colors on it so that they all kind of bleed and blend together. It looks really cool. It gives your painting a lot more interest than if you paint it all one color, which you still could do. But I'll show you this technique too. It's pretty fun. So first I'm just going to grab water and I'm going to paint my whole background. Now I want everything to look wet and shiny, but I don't want there to be any big puddles. So I'm using my paintbrush. You could also use a sponge brush to spread this out. Well, yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to work with this paper, but we'll try it out. You can see it's already getting kind of see-through. It's getting kind of dark gray. It's getting really fragile. So I'm going to try my best to stay off of Frankenstein. I don't want to get any paint on him, but luckily it is painted with wax crayon, so even if some paint does get on, it should be okay. And then I'm going to wiggle my brush in that color for like 10 seconds, load it up with paint, and then dab, dab, dab. Now if this was watercolor paper, it would really spread out better on its own. But this is just regular printing paper, so I kind of have to wiggle my brush to move this paint around. And I'm just painting in sections. I don't want to paint the whole thing blue. I want parts of it to be blue and parts of it to be purple. All right. Let's try out purple now. Let's change colors. So I'm just going in the spaces. I'm not going on top of the blue because I want to see both colors. If I go on top, it'll all be the same shade. But by having some parts purple and some parts blue, I think it looks really cool. So you can see my paper is getting kind of wrinkly. That shows that it's absorbing the water and it's getting pretty fragile. So I'm actually not going to move my painting after it now. I'm going to let it dry right here because if I try to lift it up, I could rip my paper. So don't move your paper once it's fragile like this. If you have watercolor paper or even cardstock, then it's much stronger and you could probably move it to a place to dry. So I'm just wiggling my brush. Whoa, how cool is that? Do you see how there's different blue and purple splotches? It's not all blended together. If you go over it with your brush, you're gonna have one shade, purple or blue, and it's just not as much fun as having some darker spots, some lighter spots. I think this looks awesome. I'm gonna go and dab a little bit more blue in some spots just to give it some more texture. It looks like a spooky night sky. And those yellow lightning bolts really stand out against these dark colors. I think this looks awesome. So I'm going to leave it here, let it dry completely, and then I'll have my spooky monster art.